I know you. You're that jaywalking punk anarchist.
You're that jaywalking punk anarchist. Jaywalking punk anarchist.
Hello, this is the Radical Reviewer, taking a look at Death of Some Salesman, the first episode of Season 5 of the horror series Tales from the Crypt. The plot summary on the back of the DVD case goes as follows. Grave mistake. A crooked cemetery plot salesman meets backwater folks who have their own idea of what family plot means. This is a story about a corrupt door-to-door salesman who meets his demise at the hands of a destitute family who seek revenge on salesmen who rip them off. At the same time, this story is a metaphor for capitalism's exploitation of the poor and the need for unity amongst the poor to expropriate the capitalists. Let's take a look at the episode in depth. The story starts with our protagonist having sex with a gorgeous woman who we find out he recently met at a coffee shop. We then cut to the next day. Our protagonist is looking through the obituaries to find customers. He is a door-to-door salesman who uses false promises of cemetery plots and death benefits packages to scam grieving families out of their money. Like any other capitalist, he literally makes money off the deaths of the working class. This salesman fits the classic definition of the 90s businessman villain. He's white, male, in a suit, has slick back hair. Whatever happened to this 90s villain archetype? It's a good one. Now, most of these Tales from the Crypt stories give us a irredeemably terrible person who we want to see get their comeuppance. Then, we cathartically see this take place in some horrific fashion. For this story, the expression of irredeemable terribleness moment comes when our salesman tells the woman he slept with that he lied to her to trick her into sleeping with him.
Damn you.
Oh, spare me the tears, okay, sweetheart?
But you said you loved me.
Yes, I said I loved you, and you dropped your little panties. It's called salesmanship.
Wow, what an asshole. The protagonist is the embodiment of the free market, of neoliberal capitalism, of lying, cheating, and stealing for the sake of individual selfish self-interest. After this, we see the salesman's work in action. He goes down his list of obituaries and goes to the residents and hucks false promises of non-existent cemetery plots and death benefits packages. For the sake of the story, this is supposed to represent that the protagonist is a crook and not a genuine salesman. But the reality is, the protagonist is a capitalist, and like all other capitalists, he promises everything and delivers nothing. While going about his workday, our protagonist takes a wrong turn and ends up at the wrong house. He is greeted by Ma and invited in to sell his wares. Mom likes what the protagonist is selling and calls in Pa to hear the pitch. And Pa says he was busy digging. Foreshadowing? The protagonist, of course, offers Ma and Pa a burial site with a death benefits package. For the sake of the metaphor, Pa represents the working class, the breadwinner, the unconvinced, the cynic. He is similar to the donkey character Benjamin from Animal Farm. And Ma represents the liberals. She's excited about what the capitalist is selling and is uncritical, though she relies on Pa for support. The protagonist is told,
"Can't buy nothing till we see it first."
And so he offers to show them the cemetery plot first thing in the morning. The protagonist is then offered a cup of coffee, which is cold. While he stands alone in the kitchen, he goes to put the coffee in the microwave, only to discover this is the big reveal. Capitalism is in the house of the workers, and he is knocked unconscious and captured. Pa, the worker, wants to kill the capitalist and get it over with, but Ma, the liberal, wants to see if their daughter, Winona, wants to meet the capitalist in the hopes that they might get married. For the sake of the metaphor, the daughter Winona represents the poor, and Ma wanting Winona to marry the capitalist represents liberals wanting to reform capitalism so that the poor and the capitalist can work together. As the capitalist wakes up, Pa, the worker, explains,
Like that guy what sold us the crummy microwave. Didn't work. And the vacuum, and the color TV. Wasn't no color TV till I fixed it. color TV.
This demonstrates the reality of capitalist goods. The goods hucked by salesmen are dead capital. Trees turned into junk mail, mountaintops turned into soda cans. They represent false desires and unfulfilled promises.
Really? I won't say anything to anybody. You can let me go.
And why would I trust you? You're a salesman. And a salesman ain't nothing but a thief trying to sucker people out of their hard-earned money, making them buy things they neither want nor need. Well, we've been took one time too many. And if we have to kill every last goddamn salesman on the goddamn planet, so be it.
After this, the salesman is alone again and Winona is introduced. Winona is shown to be ugly and disgusting. Her physical ugliness represents the ugliness of poverty and desperation, and the capitalist wants to solve that problem. The capitalist pretends to love and be attracted to Winona, but capitalists only placate the poor and vain shared interests for their own selfish greed. The reality is, like Winona, the capitalists find the poor repugnant. Winona states,
Of course, if you don't love me, I'll just have to give you back to Paul and let him deal with you.
the salesman struggles to perform sexually and struggles vain love for the poor and downtrodden, and through greed and coercion he is able to fake compassion for Winona. The capitalist agrees to marry Winona, and she states,
If we got married, you'd get my dowry, and they'd let you go, and we could run away and be happy together.
This flips the script on the capitalist. His greed for the dowry is no match for his self-preservation to escape the house. We cut to the wedding, and Pa is the preacher. This represents the workers overseeing the claimed symbiotic relationship between the rich and the poor. Ma provides the ring for the salesman to give to Winona. This represents liberals giving away the poor to the capitalists. Winona and the salesman ask Pa to remove the salesman's handcuffs, and Pa chooses to leave the handcuffs on. He will not free capital to do as it wishes. A struggle breaks out between Winona, the poor, and Pa, the workers, because the poor want the dream capitalism is selling. However, the worker knows this dream is a lie. This is regressive action, like the movie Falling Down, like poor people voting for Trump, like poor people supporting trickle-down economics, the alt-right, and tax cuts for the rich. In the fight, Winona defeats her father, and the salesman is freed, and immediately shoots Winona and calls her an ugly bitch. This is the capitalist selling out the poor. This is the capitalist revealing that the shared interest between capitalist and worker is a lie. The salesman then goes down into the basement to dig up the buried dowry and satiate his greed. Yet all he finds buried in the basement is his own product, the form for the cemetery plot and death benefits package, and the document has his name on it. Here we get the big plot twist. There is no dowry, and Winona and Pa are still alive. Winona gets up and reveals that it's fake blood on her wedding dress from when the salesman shot her, and Ma exclaims,
Oh, just throw it in the new washing machine that other nice salesman brought us.
This represents expropriation of the capitalist's goods. The protagonist exclaims,
You lied to me, all of you.
to which Pa retorts,
Lied? Now that ain't a nice thing to say. Besides, 'twarn't no lie at all. No, sir. It's called salesmanship.
the capitalist has dug his own grave, or as Marx states in the Communist Manifesto, what the bourgeoisie, therefore, produces above all is its own gravediggers. Its fall and the victory of the proletariat are equally inevitable. This concludes the episode as we cut back to an outro from the Crypt Keeper, who states,
The family that slays together stays together.
This is an acknowledgement that the poor, the workers, and even the liberals should work together to expropriate the capitalists. Conclusion. The primary message of this episode is about self-interest. The self-interest of the salesman and the self-interest of the common people. This can be seen particularly in the lines,
So you lied to me.
It's called salesmanship. You lied to me, all of you.
It's called salesmanship.
This is about tricking someone into acting against their own interests. The episode admits that acting in this way is bad, but it argues that acting this way is perhaps necessary in our current system. Even the woman from the coffee shop who is tricked by the salesman at the beginning of the episode might be inspired to take part in the revenge plot if she was privy to it. This is to say, it's time we work together and get a little selfish and take on the capitalists. The message of the episode is that all working people, Winona the poor, Ma the liberal class, and Pa the working class, we must all work together and kill capitalism. After all,
It's called salesmanship.
if you're interested in radical theory, looking for a book recommendation or whatever, you can get your radical reviews here with the Radical Reviewer. Thanks for watching. And yes, that is the amazing Tim Curry playing Pa, Ma, and Winona.